What if I told you that just bending your knees to get into a car actually changes the English grammar you use?
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but it is true.
Right. Or, the way people drew lines on a map 100 years ago is the exact reason you were stuck in traffic today.
Oh, absolutely. It is all connected.
We all know that feeling of the daily commute. And just to be clear, a commute simply means traveling from home to work or to school.
Traveling from home to work. Exactly. It is a very basic part of life.
Yeah, you are standing on a concrete platform, maybe holding a coffee, or you are sitting in a giant line of red taillights. We usually just think of this time as a blank space in our day, it's a necessary evil.
We do. But it is also this shared experience between where we sleep and where we work. And because billions of us travel to work every single day, it has quietly shaped how we communicate.
Which is exactly what we're getting into today on this deep dive. We have a huge stack of research here. We're looking at English language learning materials. Those are often called EL.
Right. English is a second language.
Yeah. And we also have essays on public transport, we have dictionaries, and even guides on how to make educational podcasts. But we aren't just summarizing this stuff. Our mission today is to show you how the commute, traveling from home to work, is actually a foundational tool.
It really is.
It is literally how we teach newcomers a new language and how we explain our culture. Okay, let's unpack this.
It is a brilliant place to start because, well, while the commute might feel boring to you, for someone entering a new country, it is the bedrock of their life. It is step one.
Right, you have to know how to get around.
Exactly. If you cannot move through a city, you cannot participate in it. So mastering transit is how you learn how a new society works.
So to understand how we talk about commuting, we first have to look at our physical choices. Let's look at buses and trains.
The heavyweights of public transit.
Yeah. According to the essays in our research, both are pretty cheap and both run on fixed routes. But because you are cramming lots of tired people into small spaces, they both have a high risk of pickpocketing.
Yeah, that physical closeness creates the same risk, no matter the vehicle.
But the mechanics are totally different. Like, buses can be faster if the roads are clear, but they get stuck in traffic jams.
They share the road. But trains have their own tracks. They offer a much more comfortable ride, and they are more eco-friendly.
They have so much more space.
Right, because they don't have to drive around cars. The track isolates the train from all the chaos in the city above.
And we see how this changes human behavior in our sources. There is a story about a man named Mohammed Hamad. He is a Syrian immigrant living in Australia.
Oh, the story with the red car.
Yes. Mohammed has his license and he owns this nice red car. He loves it. He uses it on the weekends for shopping. But for his daily commute, traveling from home to work, he takes the train.
He leaves the car at home.
Exactly. Because
Okay.
the heavy traffic and the nightmare of finding parking just make driving miserable.
Mohammed is a perfect example here. He has a private car, but the public train is actually better for that specific trip. He wants predictability. A car gives you freedom, but a train gives you a guaranteed arrival time.
I do have to push back a little on the essays here, though.
Oh, how so?
Well, the literature basically says trains are definitely better because of the tracks and the space. But, I mean, if trains are so superior, why do cities still use buses so much? Aren't buses like the ultimate flexible choice?
They are very flexible, yes.
Like if a pipe breaks in the road, you can reroute a bus in 5 minutes. You cannot reroute a train track.
I wouldn't say the literature is wrong, but you're pointing out a huge problem for city planners. Buses are easy to adapt. You just need a paved road.
Which we already have.
Right. But trains need massive, permanent, very expensive tracks. What's fascinating here is why we are stuck with this problem. Early city planners just didn't plan for millions of people.
Oh, right. The history side of it.
Yeah. They planned their roads for horses and people walking. They simply failed to factor in the need for mass public transportation. They built for their own time.
So when the population grew and cars were invented, there was no room left to build train tracks, not without destroying the city.
Precisely. Building trains now is so expensive, you either dig tunnels underground, which cost billions, or you tear down houses. So we default to the bus. It is a compromise.
Which means we just have to navigate the systems we have.
Yeah.
And navigating is the next big topic. Once you pick a bus or a train, you have to know how to move through the space.
You have to know where you are going.
And looking at the English materials for newcomers, it shows how complex our world really is, things we just take for granted.
When you ask for directions, you aren't just asking for a map. You are asking for a shared cultural geography.
Think about giving directions in your town. You don't say, go 400 meters north. You use landmarks.
Always landmarks.
The language guides teach this. They teach phrases like, turn at the traffic light and you'll find Pasta Bella next to the bank. Or, take the ferry to the Statue of Liberty.
You expect the other person to know the important places. The bank, the restaurant, the monument.
But the language changes depending on where you are. In a city, the words are very technical for drivers. You have to know words like roundabouts, U-turns, and merging lanes.
It is very strict vocabulary, governed by the law.
But when you leave the city, all of that goes out the window. The guides talk about rural navigation. Out in the country, the grid system vanishes. There is no bank or traffic light.
You have to use nature.
Exactly. Suddenly, you're talking about dirt roads, or following hiking trails upstream, or looking for a fork in the trail. The physical world completely changes the language you use.
And if you don't share that language, the world is very confusing. There is a deeply profound line in one of the dictionary sources. It perfectly captures this feeling of being lost.
I know the exact quote you mean.
It says, no one ever taught him how to cross the road, or buy a bus ticket, or read a map.
That line really hit me. We act like buying a bus ticket is just human instinct. But it isn't. Navigating a modern city is a learned skill.
It is a vital survival skill. If you don't know how to buy a ticket or read a map, you are completely locked out of the city. You are stuck.
Speaking of being stuck, navigating the city is hard, but navigating English transport grammar is maybe even harder.
Oh yes, the prepositions.
The language lesson plan spends so much time on this. Native speakers do it without thinking, but it drives English learners crazy.
The infamous in versus on debate. It is a huge challenge.
It really is. Why do we say we get in a car or in a taxi, but we say we get on a bus or on a train or on a plane?
The grammar guides just give rules to memorize. But it highlights how random English seems until you look at the physical movement. The grammar is a memory of how we move our bodies.
Right, and I have a really helpful, simple analogy for this. Think about approaching the vehicle. If you have to duck your head and bend your knees and fold your body into a small box, you get in it.
You get in the car.
Yes. You get in the taxi. You are closed inside. But if the vehicle is a large platform where you can stand up and walk down an aisle, you step on it. You get on the bus. You get on the train.
That is very clear. But I will challenge that just a little bit.
Oh, really?
The platform rule is great for buses, but what about a bicycle or a horse? You don't stand up and walk down an aisle on a bicycle.
True.
But you still get on a bike. You get on a horse.
Oh, wow, yeah. You definitely don't get in a horse. That would be terrible.
Exactly. The rule there is about straddling.
Yeah.
If you sit on top of it with a leg on each side, you are on it.
That makes perfect sense.
But your main point is completely right. Our physical relationship with the vehicle changes the grammar. And because travel is so important, it also dominates our idioms.
The idioms are literally everywhere in our research. If someone is moving too slowly, we call them a slow coach.
Or if you miss an opportunity, you are missing the boat.
Yeah. And if you pass a test easily, you are sailing through it. If we want a room clean and organized, we say keep things all shipshape.
And when we share a problem, we say we are all in the same boat. It is so nautical. We use travel to explain society.
And there is a great explanation of the phrase, a smooth ride. It means an experience without any big problems, like having plain sailing or no bumps in the road.
It is very visual.
What's fascinating is why we do this. We use the feeling of moving over a road to describe our emotions.
We do that because everyone understands physical feelings.
Yeah.
You might not know my job, but you know what a pothole feels like.
Yeah.
You know the stress of a bumpy road.
Oh, for sure.
And you know the relief of a smooth, flat road. So we use that to talk about abstract feelings. Which brings us to a huge point about geography. Our idioms reflect our transport, but our transport is dictated by our geography.
We see this perfectly in a source with some international students. They talk about how they travel. First, there is Marco from the Netherlands. The land there is very flat, and they built great roads for bikes, so he uses a bicycle.
He adapts to his home.
Then you have Giorgio from Venice. Venice has canals, so he has to travel by boat. The water is literally the road.
He doesn't have a choice.
And then there is John in the United States. Everything is really spread out there. So John usually drives a car, but he says he switches to the train just to avoid the awful highway traffic.
In every case, the person changes their behavior to fit their local environment, It is all about adaptation.
And sometimes adaptation requires imagination, especially for kids. We looked at a lesson plan for children. It uses a song to teach them the question, how did you get here today?
It is a very cute song.
It starts out very normal, walking, taking the bus, riding a bicycle, taking the train, taking a boat.
The standard commutes we just talked about.
But then it escalates. After the boat, the song teaches them airplane. And for the big finale, it teaches them rocket.
Rocket ship.
Yeah, and the kids have to do a full 10-to-1 blast-off countdown and jump up.
It is wonderful. It teaches kids that the future of travel is a rocket ship. It assumes technology will just keep getting better. But if we look at the economic and environmental sources we have, the reality is quite different.
Yeah, the data is actually pretty dark.
It is. The research talks about how we are running out of natural oil reserves. All these cars, planes, and buses rely on a finite resource. Demand is growing much faster than supply.
And alternative energy isn't ready to cover the gap yet.
Exactly. He also makes a very serious point. If we don't fix this energy crisis, the future of our commute will not be a rocket ship. We might actually regress. We might have to go back to the horse and buggy era.
Wow, from rockets back to a horse and buggy, that is a massive step backwards.
It really is.
It makes you think about how fragile our systems are, and it makes you wonder what to do while you were sitting in all this traffic today. Which brings us to our final layer. What do we actually do during the commute?
We aren't just staring out the window anymore.
No, we are listening. We are listening to spoken audio. The car or the train has become a huge place to consume audio.
And for people learning English, it is a game changer. The commute has become a mobile classroom.
Our sources talk about a project by Dr. Say and Dr. McQuillan. It is called ESL Pod. They use real, authentic conversations and idioms, but they speak at a slightly slower pace.
It helps listeners catch the grammar without panicking. Slower, but still natural. That is very important.
Right. One source from Charles Kelly gives a golden rule for podcasts. He says, don't speak unnecessarily slowly. Pausing between each word leads to unnatural intonation.
If you pause too much, you teach people the wrong way to speak.
I am so glad you brought that up, because we found another script in our sources that completely ignores Charles Kelly's rule.
They're the coaching show.
Yes, two characters named Mark and Sarah. They speak very, very slowly. They put huge robotic pauses between syllables. Mark says, I rode my bicycle for 30 minutes. Bicycle.
It is so strange to read.
And Sarah says, I usually take the transport to the station.
It reads like a parody of the human being. It breaks every rule of natural speech.
It totally does. But you know, it's funny, the conversation still works. They have a successful ending.
They do.
They are talking about avoiding traffic, and Mark offers Sarah his spare bike. So Sarah and Mark happily agree to go for a bicycle ride together.
See, even with terrible intonation, the communication achieved its goal.
Yeah, they avoided the traffic.
It is a funny example, but it shows how audio creation is for everyone now. Students aren't just listening. They are making their own shows, like the 7th graders in Wisconsin. The Cooley kids.
Oh, yes. The Road She Traveled project?
Exactly. These students use podcasts to interview local women in their community. They recorded it and told the stories. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the commute has transformed.
It really has.
It is not just dead time anymore. Through audio, the car is a classroom. The train is a research lab. We made the journey just as enriching as the destination.
That is a beautiful way to say it. So let's look at what we covered today. We started with buses and trains. We learned why train tracks feel different than bus routes.
We unpacked the cultural map needed to navigate a city.
And how nature changes the language on rural dirt roads. We figured out why you get in a car, but get on a bus, and how those actions created the idioms we use every single day.
And finally, we looked at how we turn the commute into a space for learning.
It really changes how you look at your morning routine.
It does. And I want to leave you with one final thought for your next commute. As our cities get more crowded and oil runs out, the commute will have to change.
It is inevitable.
And when it changes, what happens to our language? Will our idioms adapt to a highly advanced rocket future? Or, if the system struggles, will our metaphors revert back to the horse and buggy era?
Wow. That is a really fascinating question to think about. So tomorrow morning, when you are standing on that platform or sitting in that sea of red taillights, remember something. You aren't just traveling. You are participating in a massive shared language that is always evolving. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive. And wherever you're heading next, we wish you a very smooth ride.